Good morning, everyone. Happy Cinco de Mayo, or Happy Children's Day. So my normal emotional support guy is not here today, my husband, Ron. He's on a road trip to Colorado to pick up my daughter, Catherine, from college. She has her last final this week, and she just finished her first year of college. Yay! So, since I don't have my normal guy, I had to invite some other support people today. So I invited my mom, Mrs. Jinkawa. She's in the back over there. And then my brother, John Jinkawa, over there. And his son, Skylar, my niece, Skylar Jinkawa. Thanks for being here. And I know I have a lot of other cheerleaders here today, so thank you very much. So the topic of my talk today is generational Buddhists. So I want to start with just a little passage, so please join me in Gassho. In order that the process be made continuous, without end and without interruption, by which those who have been born first guide those who come later, and those who are born later join those who were born before. This is so that the boundless ocean of birth and death be exhausted. Thank you. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, so what kind of Buddhist are you? So at OCBC, we're all Jodo Shinshu Buddhists or Shin Buddhists, but we often have other labels to describe ourselves. So we have the convert Buddhist. You come from another religion. We have the nightstand Buddhist. So you were introduced to Buddhism through reading books. Maybe now we should refer to them as Kindle Buddhists, reading books through your e-readers, or YouTube Buddhists. M.A. Janice Hirohama just wrote a nice article in the May Korin, so read her article about nightstand Buddhists to everyday Buddhists. We also have pickleball Buddhists. So Reverend Crane mentioned a few months ago, you come to OCBC to play pickleball, but you don't really attend service, but you are really part of the OCBC sangha. Oops. So today I wanted to talk about generational Buddhists. Sometimes they're called hereditary Buddhists. You either grew up here at OCBC or you grew up at another BCA temple. I grew up going to Nishi, the Los Angeles Honpa Honganji Buddhist Temple in Los Angeles in Little Tokyo. As generational Buddhists, you have grandparents who are Buddhist, great-grandparents who are Buddhist. How many of you are generational Buddhists or hereditary Buddhists? Wow, a lot of you. Okay. So, as I mentioned, I grew up going to Nishi. My dad was a very active Dharma school teacher there. He had all kinds of other roles. He was very, very busy there. So he brought me along to all his activities there, so I grew up at Nishi too. So today, I want to shamefully talk about my own family history. I think my family story is very typical of the generational Japanese American Buddhist experience. So here I go. So this is the story about my grandpa, Kiichi Jinkawa. He immigrated in 1885 from Hiroshima, Japan. So thank you to Tilden Osako for doing genealogy research for me. And because he did this research for me, he was able to pull the ship's manifest from when he immigrated. And the ship's manifest showed that he landed in Honolulu on February 18th, 1904. He sailed the SS Doric, which was built by the White Star Line. And if you know the White Star Line, it's the same shipping company that built the Titanic. So good thing my grandfather's ship made it across the Pacific, or else I wouldn't be here. On the ship's manifest, I was able to see that many immigrants from this time come from Hiroshima, Wakayama, or even Kumamoto. So do you all have relatives from those cities, from Japan? So the upper right-hand picture there is a picture of his immigration card. And on his immigration card, it says Nakagawa Kiichi. So our family name is actually Nakagawa, but there was a family in Hiroshima that that didn't have any boys, and they only had girls, and they asked my grandfather to take their family name. And he said, okay, I'll do that. I'm not going to marry any of your girls, but I will take your family name. And that's how we came to have the Jinkawa last name. On another note, Jodo Shinshu was and still is one of the largest Buddhist schools in Japan. So it's not surprising that most of these immigrants from this time period were Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. So my grandfather soon arrived in Fresno, California, the Central Valley here in California, and started farming with his uncle. I'm told that they grew wine grapes, but do those look like grapevines? I don't know, maybe they did it differently back then. And I think many of your grandparents or relatives are farmers. So are there any farming families here? Yeah, I think a lot of families were brought to Orange County because of farming. Japanese Americans or Japanese and Asians have had a long history of racism and discrimination. So the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 provided a 10-year ban on Chinese immigrants. So therefore, Japanese immigrants became the next wave of farm laborers. So I think farming life was too hard for Grandpa Jinkawa, so he ended up moving to Fresno's Japantown around the time he got married. He got married in 1915. That's their wedding picture there. My grandpa also immigrated from Hiroshima, Japan, from a village right next to my grandfather's. And Fresno Japantown was a bustling Japanese-American community where the Fresno Buddhist Temple was built. So that Fresno Buddhist Temple was first built in 1902, so that's the picture in the middle there. That was a wooden structure, and so unfortunately it burnt down in 1919. And they replaced the Fresno Buddhist Temple with a concrete building in 1920. That building is still there, but the Fresno Buddhist Temple moved to a different location in Clovis. And this building was actually sold in 2018 to a Theravada Buddhist community, Burmese Buddhist community. So it's still Buddhist. It's really interesting there. The Naijin doesn't look the same. It doesn't have the central altar in there, but it still has the Sagari Fuji on the outsides, and the shoji screens are still the original ones. So it's pretty interesting to see. I've only seen pictures. I haven't been there yet. The Fresno Buddhist Temple was the third BCA temple that was established in the United States. So BCA is the Buddhist Churches of America. We're coming up on the 125th anniversary of the BCA. And I wanted to mention that I'm wearing the 125th anniversary BCA Montoshiki show today. It was gifted to me this morning, so thank you very much to Dharma school teachers. And also, it has farming fruits on here, so I did notice there's grapevines on here. It's really cute. There's strawberries and watermelons and tomatoes. So this is a very, very cute Motoshiki show. My father was born in 1921. His younger brother was born in 1929. The Immigration Act of 1924 essentially stopped all Japanese immigration. So Japan was not in agreement of this new law, and it really increased the tension between Japan and America. And because of this Immigration Act, essentially there was no more immigration from Japan. So that's why we see Japanese Americans have these distinct Issei, Nisei, Sansei, Yonsei generations. So we all pretty much have around the same age, have collective experience. So that's a picture of my father's family there. Grandpa Jinkawa unfortunately passed away in 1934. My grandma became a widow with very young children. That's a picture of their funeral, actually, right in front of the Fresno Buddhist temple. And as you can see, they had a large community that supported them. And I'm sure my grandmother found great support in her temple community. So life at the Fresno Betsuin Temple, my grandmother was in Fujinkai, now called the Buddhist Women's Association. That's a picture of the Fujinkai handicrafting class. In the upper right is a picture of the Junior YBA. So back then it was called the Junior Young Men's Buddhist Association. I was in Junior YBA. Are there people in here that were in Junior YBA? Yeah, and generations of Junior YBA. The picture at the bottom right looks like a Hanamatsuri service in their Naijin. So Executive Order 9066, I think most Japanese Americans are very familiar with this. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor by Imperial Japan, the Japanese Americans from the West Coast were sent to internment camps, or the American concentration camps. My father's family was sent to Jerome, Arkansas. And at the time, my dad was a student at UC Berkeley, so that's what it looked like in the 1940s. So it was unfortunate that he had to leave his education. Once at Jerome, he was granted release to attend Syracuse University in New York, so that's where he ended up getting his degree. I recently learned that on the application for release, there is a question on your religion. So he had noticed that a lot of if they put Christian down, that they would get released sooner. I highly doubt that my dad put Christian on his release papers. He was a very devout Buddhist, so I don't think he would have changed it. A few years ago, my dad did get an honorary degree from UC Berkeley a few years ago. Unfortunately, he had passed by then, but my mom and my brother and I went up to receive his degree. So I'm sure many of you Japanese American families here today have had families that were incarcerated during World War II. It's a very painful and ugly time in our American history. There's families with generational trauma. After returning from the camp, they rarely talked about their camp experiences. Their mantra of gaman or shikata ga nai made them just move forward. So after the war, as families moved back to the West Coast, temples became hostels until families were able to get back on their feet. During the 50s and 60s, many temples grew and rebuilt many of their hondo buildings. So does that picture look very familiar on the upper right? That's the 1965 OCBC hondo. This hondo was remodeled in 2015 for the 50th anniversary. Do you all remember that koi pond in the middle? And then I found this baseball picture in the BCA's 75th anniversary. It's the anniversary book from 1974. And it's amazing that the BCA is celebrating their 125th anniversary this year. This 1973 OCBC Midget Championship team picture is amazing because the families of these boys are still here at OCBC. So Brian Furumoto's dad is the coach standing, and his brother is number 30. And Nancy Hara's brother is number 9. And Hiko Miyake is number 42. And Bonnie Goodman's brother is number 1. So due to the racial discriminations at the turn of the century, the collective experiences of the incarceration during World War II, Japanese Americans have really supported one another, and they've really formed a great sense of community. So I've heard it time and time again, when you step on the OCBC campus, you really, really feel that sense of community. BCA's temples were formed where these Japanese communities settled, and it's this collective community that builds our sangha. So what can we learn from these generational Buddhists? We learn that the sangha is very, very important. Reverend John Turner always talks about you could be a nighttime Buddhist, you could do self-study, but if you really want to take your practice forward, you really have to find a sangha. In-person services are important. It's where you breathe together. It's where you feel the energy from each other. So especially when you're chanting, you're breathing together. Generational Buddhists have also taught us that Jodo Shinshu is about the heart and how you live. It's not a religion of the mind. You can't get the most out of it through books and self-study. I was recently at Reverend Takashi Miyaji's talk, and he said, "What do you expect will happen to us if we go to the temple?" He says to look at your older sangha members. They are dignified. They're not reluctant of death. I think our older sangha members are full of wisdom and compassion. Another term that Reverend Takashi Miyaji taught me was this term called kundoku. He explained it as seeping of the virtue. It's literally translated as fragranced by the virtue. And so virtue is just a simple word for benefits. So the benefits of Buddhism take time. It takes years to seep in, and to become part of your heart and mind. It could take generations. But we ourselves don't realize that it has seeped in, so we just keep trying, which is a good thing so that we don't become complacent. And the cool thing is that the people around you see it. I see it in our long-term sangha members. I see it in those families in that picture. They're still around. They have so much gratitude in their heart, so much Namo Amida Butsu in their heart, that they work so hard to give back to the temple. And then those who grew up at the temple, they really might not realize how important their sangha is until they bring their own children back to the temple. So I started my talk today with a passage from Shinran Shonin's Passage for Generations. He mentioned this as a way to arrive to true happiness. And I'm going to read it again. "In order that the process be made continuous, without end and without interruption, by which those who have been born first guide those who come later, and those who are born later join those who were born before. This is so that the boundless ocean of birth and death be exhausted." So as I'm getting near the end of my talk, I wanted to do something fun here. So I polled some of my fellow sangha members and asked them, you know you're a Japanese American generational Buddhist when the first thing you do when you go to your bachan's house is to gassho in front of the obutsudan. Or your bachan's house smells like osenko. So bachan is grandma and osenko is the incense. You know you're a Japanese American generational Buddhist when you're not sure if that church goes by church or temple. You thought it was called an ojuzu, but now it's an onenju. You know you're a JA generational Buddhist when the three treasures started with, I put my faith in. And you thought it was Namu Amidabutsu, but it's supposed to be Namo. You know you're a JA generational Buddhist when your mom's only form of adornment is an onenju. And your mom lets flies out the screen door instead of swatting them. You know you're a JA generational Buddhist when there's Chinese chicken salad at any temple potluck, and you can't eat chili without rice. You automatically say itadakimasu before digging in. You know you're a JA generational Buddhist when you know both versions of Ondoku-san by heart. You know the Juseige by heart, but you still use the book. You've been to more funerals than weddings before the age of 20. You know you'll have Chinese food after the funeral. You take a goldfish home from the Obon Carnival. You had to find someone to give all your goldfish away because your mom said you couldn't keep them. You go to Obon Odori practice for the snack shack, and you spent all day working shifts at Obon. You sat through service in your basketball jersey. There's a FOR basketball tournament this weekend, so that's probably why a lot of kids aren't here today. You've been to LABCC summer camp. You've cried at LABCC summer camp. You left LABCC early because of basketball. So thank you very much for being here today. I'd like to close with Gasho. Thank you. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.